Hi, it's Chester at Blue Pecan Computer Training, and in this video I'm going to look at how to select a column that contains blanks. I'm going to look at three different methods. First method, start by selecting the first cell that you want to include in your selection. Then go up to the name box and you'll see the cell address of that cell. Now after that cell address, type in a colon and then the address of the last cell that you want to select. E21 in my case, press enter and it makes the selection. Now oftentimes you have a much bigger column than this. I mean, if I had a column this size, I'd just be selecting manually. So there'd be no point in using these methods. But if you had a much longer column, went down into tens of thousands of rows, you don't always know the address of the last cell that you want to select. So how do you get around that? Well, fairly similar. What you do is you select the first cell you want to include in the selection, go up to your name box, type a colon, and then type the address of a cell that you know is below your data. So I'm going to say E2000 for argument's sake. Press enter. And then to reduce the size of the selection, use Control-Shift-Up arrow key. And then it will just select the cells that you're using in that column. Now the second method you can use just to make a normal selection within a column, but also to make a selection within a formula. A slightly different method, but you start off in the same way. Select the first cell that you want to include in the selection, and you press the F8 key on the top of your keyboard, and that turns extend selection mode on. The way that works, if I click in another cell, you can see it extends the selection rather than changes it. I'm in this cell, and what I do is I use Control-G, and I type in the address of the last cell that I want to include in the selection. So let's say I know that cell address, E21, and it will make that selection. Now, if you don't know the address of the last cell you want to select, again, you start in the first cell that you want to include in the selection. F8 is already on, I haven't turned that off yet. Control-G again, and you type in the address of a cell that you know you're not using, way below your data. Click on OK. You use that same selection shortcut key, Control-Shift-Up arrow, and that reduces the selection to only include those cells that you're using. Now, one thing you've got to remember though is to press F8 after you've used this method. If you don't, you'll get this effect where it just extends the selection rather than changes it. So once you press F8, it will come out of that mode. So let's see how we can use this within a formula. I'll do a simple sum calculation. Again, I'll start in the first cell I want to select. Press F8 to turn extend selection on. Control-G. And again, we'll pretend we don't know the cell address of the last cell we want to select. So E2000 in my reference box. Click on OK. Control-Shift-Up arrow key. Close the bracket, press enter, and I have my calculation with the correct range. Okay, third method, completely different, and this is by far the easiest way. Now to use this method, what you need to do is you need to house your data in an Excel table. So to do that, click in any cell, go up to Insert on your ribbon, and click on this Table button. Now I tend to use the shortcut key, Control-T, and do the same thing. So all this little dialog box does is confirm the range of cells that you're going to house in your table. And you have this toggle to say whether you already have headings. We already do, so I keep that ticked and click on OK. Now, if it does any weird kind of formatting, like you can see up here where the column headings have disappeared, what you can do is go up to your table design tab, contextual tab that only appears when you're in the table. So if you click outside it, it disappears. But here you've got a gallery of table styles and you can choose none, and that will remove any formatting that you may not want in your table. Now to select a column within a table is very, very easy. What you do is you hover over the column heading for that column and you'll see a little black arrow that points down, and all you do is click and that will select down to the bottom of the table. And you can use that technique within a formula. So if I said equals sum, Hovered over the column heading, waiting for that little black arrow. Click. And you can see it uses slightly different syntax. Table 1 is the default name of this table. I could change that if I liked. But transaction value is the name of the column that I've selected. That's much, much easier. Now we'll name this table. So if we go to the Table Design tab, over to the Table Name box, I'll call this transaction underscore data. Can't have a space in our table name. Now this is quite useful, naming the table, because I could even make the selection within a formula in a different sheet. So I'm in a completely different sheet, equals sum. And if I start typing the name of the table, you can see it appears in the IntelliSense list. Then I can open up a square bracket, choose the column I want to do a calculation on, close the square bracket, close the round bracket. And that's a very easy way of selecting a column that contains blanks on another sheet. Okay, so 3 methods. First 2 using little shortcut keys where your data isn't in a table. And then the second method may persuade you to use Excel tables because it makes the selection so much easier. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover in this particular video. Hopefully that's useful. If it is, please subscribe and I'll see you next video.